Welcome to Monograph. I'm your host, Jackie Clay. Today we are going to visit the Wiregrass Museum in Dothan, Alabama. We'll talk with curator and director Dana-Marie Lemmer and local artist Jenny Fine. Hi!
So nice to see you. Thanks for coming.
Yes, thank you. This is my first time here in Dothan at the Wiregrass.
Well, welcome. We're so happy to have you here.
Yeah. So what is this building?
Sure. Well, it's the Wiregrass Museum of Art. We moved in 1991, but the building actually was the city's power plant originally. So in the early 20th century, it generated power for the city of Dothan.
Okay. Now it generates creative energy for the
right.
region.
Power in a whole new way.
So what programs are happening here?
Sure. Well, let's take a look.
Okay.
We have about 18 programs that we run each year. Some of those are very traditional programs like school outreach, tour programs. We do a lot of public programming as well. Film screenings that are outside, really to bring a different community into the museum that maybe wouldn't come otherwise, but an outdoor film is more accessible. We have a collection, of course, about 1,100 objects in our care, and a very diverse exhibition program. We have over 14 exhibitions a year here.
Yeah, so I know you're both the executive director and you work as a curator here. What is it like developing exhibitions and working with artists?
Sure. Well, working with artists is really the focus of our exhibition program. The curatorial practice that I have is very artist-centric, and I think that that's really important, specifically where we are located and being in Alabama, to provide a platform for artists living and working in our state to create new work, to experiment, to launch new projects. That's something that we're really proud of.
What's up now, it's a lot of folks from the region. Is there like a
Sure.
regional focus, or how do you decide on those?
I mean, we do have I think a love for supporting contemporary artists living and working in the state. Of course, that extends to the southeast region of the United States. Next quarter, we'll have artists from South Korea and Canada and China that will be exhibiting with us. So we do have a global reach in terms of the artists that we work with. This quarter, and what you're gonna see today is actually 2 local artists. So we have an exhibition by Beverly West Leach, who lives in Ozark, Alabama, just down the road, and Jenny Fine, who is based in Enterprise, Alabama.
How do you think the Wiregrass can be like a node of change just in the region?
I think that bringing people together around art, sometimes it's not even about the art, it's just about being a space for those conversations to happen.
Speaking of community, for 100 years, folks in Montevallo have come together for this unusual competition. Let's take a look.
College night is the first homecoming tradition in the state of Alabama.
Instead of having a rivalry between sports teams, it's this 100-year-old rivalry between these 2 color sides of school spirit, the purple and the gold.
A lot of people explain college night as competition theater, but it's a lot more than that.
You have women's volleyball, you have men's ultimate frisbee, you have women's basketball and men's basketball, and then obviously it all culminates on Saturday night with a musical theater competition between 2 one-act original musicals.
These musicals are written by the students, directed by the students, music composed by the students, set built by the students. Everything, the direction, the acting, all of it's done by students.
I've never done any kind of theater or anything like that ever in my life. And 3 hours before auditions, the gold side was like, you need to audition, hyping me up, and I went up and I did it, and here I am.
PV stands for Purple Victory. That's what we're gonna do tonight. We're gonna have one.
So last year we were going for GB2, winning 2 years in a row, and this year we're going for our 3rd year of winning. So we're holding up this sign instead because we don't want to hold up the PV symbol at all. So we keep our fingers separate and GB3.
GB!
It says a lot about the type of people that Montevallo attracts. that we are so enthused about this tradition and keeping the traditions alive. Because from the outside, it often looks very weird.
Yeah.
So coming back as an alumni and just getting to like reconnect and see everybody and really sit back and just kind of take it all in is really exciting.
Now you come back and you see people that have played on gold side and on purple side, and there's this love and this shared community for the game.
Some of my very best friends are on the purple side. And that's one of the things that I love about College Night is it brings us all together.
The Purple Victory Centennial Cast proudly presents Murder in Plastique.
Don't they all look lovely? Thank you for coming.
There's a party.
A party.
A party.
There's a dinner.
A dinner. A dinner. And something in the air.
Our show is Made in Mayfield, or The Milkman Cometh, and it's a story of someone who is going against the norm of society. There have been just countless hours put into this show.
We're the Stallworth family. We're not interrupting anything, are we? We were just on the road and thought we'd stop by for some dinner.
Well, what do you think, Allie?
You couldn't have picked a better place.
The only person that knows who won College Night is the SGA president. After all the games have been played and the shows have been put on the stage, the SGA president comes out and they start a speech. And somewhere down the line, they drop the line for the winning side. The leaders react, and then the side reacts. And that's how we know who wins College Night.
And now, it's finally time for what we've all been waiting for. The Centennial College Night results. First, I want to say thank you to Montevallo. Thank you for giving students, alumni, family, and supporters an experience like none other to come together and celebrate this place we call home. You couldn't have picked a better place.
That is the greatest game in America.
We're here in Synchronized Swimmers with enterprise-based artist Jenny Fine. Tell us a little bit about your practice.
Hi, thanks for being here. Well, my practice is based here in Enterprise in this region. I studied photography, and actually, interestingly, I integrate a lot of my job skills. So I worked as a florist for like 5 years in college. And I learned a lot of skills on the job, and so I have incorporated that a lot in this. My grandmother was a school teacher, and so in the summers and after school, if we weren't like swimming, she was teaching us how to do etiquette. She was teaching us etiquette lessons, or she was teaching us how to like have a tea party properly, or she was just always teaching.
Tell us a little bit about the exhibition.
Okay. So this exhibition actually, the idea of it, I think it began really as I was a child. So as I was saying, my grandmother, like a lot of our play had teaching interwoven into it. So we did a lot of painting, drawing, we made costumes, and all the while, like, she was telling us stories. Anyway, this installation really, I guess the imagery and stuff has really come out of swimming and in her pool, in her backyard. So really like slipping into the water, we would slip into our imagination. Because we could walk down there, we would go often. And so it would really invade not just like my waking thoughts, but even my dreams. And so I would dream of like slipping into the water and her vinyl, like the vinyl pebble, faux ground would like turn into sand and become the bottom of the ocean. And so like this idea of fantasy and escapism was all really wrapped up in water. When we would be swimming and the rain would come, she would like whisk us under the metal umbrella, safety of the metal umbrella, and tell us stories about like the Nazis and concentration. She was a geography teacher, history teacher. And so she would just tell us about witches and, stuff like that. And so the rain would stop and we'd slip back into the water with, Nazis and all this stuff in our mind. And so swimming and these narratives really kind of were intertwined, just like with my photography.
Who are the other other performers in this work? Are they also people that you're connected with in the community, or are they folks in Dothan? Or?
So the project actually is generative research. That's an Elizabeth Elliot word. The live performances, and this is the debut, these are the first time I get to see all of the work together. And also, the costumes are embodied by total strangers. Wiregrass Museum of Art sent out a call for people of all genders, all shapes, all sizes, all ages. And it was an interesting, diverse, colorful group of women. And one woman's husband was like, "Why are you doing this?" And she was like, "Because I just I want to know what's going to happen. I want to see what happens. And I've never done anything like this before." And in a way, it made me cry when I heard that, because in a way it feels like that she is empowered to embody something and life in a way and face it in a way now that has more courage. And that's my greatest hope. Who knows if that's what is carried on, but the hope is that people are moved in some way, that image that they experience here lives on in their mind and maybe revisits them again in the future.
Next up is conceptual photographer Celestia Morgan, whose work also reflects personal experience.
My name is Celestia Morgan, and I'm a conceptual photographer. The beginning of my photography journey started roughly teenage years. When my father died, we were looking for images of him in a family photo album, and we could not find them. And we realized he was the guy behind the camera. It made me kind of think about what inspired me to pick up a camera, and I believe it was through him, seeing him behind the camera itself. Going to college at UAB, I started out in one major and decided to take an elective, a photo class, which was across the street. And so the thing is, I guess, I crossed the street and it changed my life. I took a photography class, and from there, working in a dark room, it was like magic. Well, I'm a very reserved person. I don't talk much, but I observe a lot of things. I look into a lot of details. I take in the moments. Art through photography, it was a catalyst to voice my opinions, to voice the things that I sometimes felt shy to say at those moments. Everything I've created came from within. I didn't make things up just to make art. I didn't make things up just to have a show. I pulled it from a deeper place. It's almost like a balloon. It keeps adding on top of each other, these layers and layers. This balloon gets bigger and bigger until it pops. And I think at the moment when a work is created, my balloon is popping, and I'm able to express or let out everything that I have held in. Redlining kind of developed from doing research again of my grandmother while my family lived in certain areas. My grandmother would move from one house to a house up the street because it had an extra bedroom because she had 16 kids. So yeah, she would do that, and I questioned, why. And when I got married, my husband and I purchased our first home. I mean, owning property was, a wealth builder. That's how you capitalize. That's the American dream, owning a home and having a nice job and passing it on to your family. Within 5 years of us purchasing a home, the property value dropped. We got a little nervous about that, and we were really excited about, starting a family. So I started to do some research, and I came across the history of redlining. It's pretty much discrimination where these maps were created, and if you wanted to purchase a home, you would be denied the mortgage loans. And I started to look at this HOLC map of Birmingham postal map. And I realized, wow, this is kind of crazy how they categorize these neighborhoods. On the Birmingham map, it actually says Negro concentration. As I look at the neighborhoods in which I grew up in, when I go back now and look at the area, it has declined. So I start to look at that and look at how a lot of the African Americans were living in the city and how the map of 1930s look at the map of 2019. And I was like, wow, these neighborhoods are almost in the same place, So I started to document the things that I saw changing in my neighborhood, and I wanted my voice to be heard. And once again, I picked up my camera and started to use that as my weapon of choice. I wanted to create my own little imprints. We label them as hazardous, or we label them as Negro concentration, but I wanted people to see more. So I placed these geometric shapes over skies, letting people know that these neighborhoods, people live here, they're citizens too. They pay taxes just like you pay taxes on the other side of town. I want people to realize that there's hope for these neighborhoods, and we should offer more hope to the people. So the work is not only looking at the negative part of redlining and how we face it today, but it also brings about the question of how can we move forward within these neighborhoods. That's why it's so important to strip away that negative connotation towards that map that was created. I like bait. So as a viewer, when you see these images hanging on the wall, you're just like, oh, that is so pretty, the sky is so blue. And it's like, I got you. As an artist, I got you. But now conceptually, now let's look at the ugly part of it, so. When people view the work, I really want them to leave with a sense of self-examination. And this happened in the 30s. Some people say, I wasn't born then. But I want people to actually question, okay, how I operate now. I know some people look at the work and may say, well, it's about redlining. Oh well, another piece of work about redlining. But I really, really want the viewer to see what's happening and how the impact us now of today, 2019, or even beyond. How can we deviate from that path that's been laid before us?
They do a lot of workshops here with children. I'm from 30 minutes down the road.
Where's that?
Enterprise. It's just down the road. Grew up there, and we would come here on field trips. This is the closest museum around. And I came up here as a kid and did art projects. What's cool is that now the kids are doing projects inspired by the work I've done down in the gallery. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. The other day they made these underwater seascapes after they went to the downstairs into the installation.
What did they do? How did they make the seascapes?
The education person does them. Mm-hmm. And so it was a project that she came up with, and so then the kids got to kind of make their own imaginary seascapes. The kids were beaming. It's just really cool though to see that, and to see them on the stairs holding their picture up on Instagram of their seascape that they made, and remembering that I walked up those stairs. And anyway, it's just interesting that it's full circle.
So this museum was an influence on your practice.
Yeah.
And now you're shaping new artists.
Yeah, totally. And Dana and the team here are very supportive. She just trusted the vision before she could really even see anything. I don't know, I think that thing is kind of rare, especially around here. And so yeah, totally. I think part of that, being called back home and feeling like I needed to move home, maybe is the spirit of this place too, who knows? So, you said you love oysters, don't you?
It's true, yes.
I have a little surprise for you. Let's go over here.
Okay.
Oh, well. So you know, I made some oyster costumes.
I was aware, yes.
Do you want to wear one?
I do.
All right, let's do it. Takes a little bit of finagling. You gotta dive in. It's like being reborn. All right.
I feel like I'm in my truest form.
Well, there you go.
That's pretty cool. You did a good job.
Thanks. You look good in there.
I feel good in here. Speaking of truest form, up next is Abe Partridge, who went from preacher to painter and songwriter.
I'm Abe Partridge, and I'm an artist and songwriter. My childhood, I'd spent, I went to a different school every year. Up until high school, I went to a different school every year. We moved around a lot. I found in fundamentalist Christianity something that appeared to be very stable, like something like a home. I went off to Bible college when I graduated. I ended up going to 4 different ones in 4 years. It was kind of a culture shock, you know. I struggled and about got kicked out of every one I went to. I spent the next 5 or 6 years of my life as a Baptist preacher. Until 2007, when I came to my wits' end and realized that regardless of the cost, it wasn't for me. I had to totally start completely over. I had nothing. I lived in my mom's house with my wife and 2 children. You know, devoid of any marketable skill. I went and joined the Air Force. I didn't really start writing songs or painting for that matter. I started doing all this at the same time. And that was when I was in Kentucky. It was the way that I coped with the internal struggles of losing myself. Anger and grief and disappointment with myself and with my decisions, with God, with religion, with church. I mean, honest to God, that's what saved me from despair. And so I started trying to write songs myself. And it was only for that same reason, you know. It's like, you know, like you hear Townes Van Zandt singing Waiting Around to Die when you're waiting around to die, and then you're like, man, I want to write a song like that, you know? And so that's what I started doing. And it was really terrible. Like everybody, when they first start, I'm doing almost anything, they kind of suck at it, you know? But, you know, then again, I wrote some stuff that I still play. I went to the desert with the Air Force. I had been writing songs and painting pictures for 6 years or so. And when I was there, I I came to realize that I had spent my entire adult life just bringing negativity and violence in the world. And when you think about your life in that way, it's pretty disheartening. But I knew I had songs that helped me, and I was like, man, I'm gonna try to play these songs for folks. And when I get home, and I got home, and I found this songwriter contest, and I played it, and it changed my whole life. So I started painting at the same time as I started writing songs, and it was just a way to get my mind on something other than inside of me, you know. I mean, I like to paint stories a lot. I like to use symbols, and I like to use colors to symbolize things, and then shapes and objects to symbolize things, and then I like to kind of tell a story in a painting. It's kind of the same thing I do with a guitar, really, you know, it's just storytelling. And then sometimes I just do stuff just because it's weird. So what I do is I get a board and I put tar on it, roofing tar. And the roofing tar sits on the board in my barn for a couple of months or so. Or sometimes I paint on other things too. I paint on a lot of records, and I paint on just whatever I can put tar on, really. And then after it dries, then I cover it with a layer of paint, and then I etch everything I carve everything into the tar. Whenever the carver hits that tar, that's what it make. I don't sketch nothing out. I truly believe that I'm doing exactly what God made me to do right now. It just took me a long time and a winding path to get here. Found my show. I guess I never found my show.